Welcome. My name is Hubert Bennett, and I am one of the SLDS trainers for the Georgia Department of Education. Also joining me is Jesse Peavy on the line. Today's session will be Profile Manager, and this session is for non-Infinite Campus or Power School. We actually have individual webinars for each of those particular vendors. During this session, we will be showing you how to create a new role in the SLDS Profile Manager. I hope that you've logged into your student information system, and hopefully you have already done the necessary steps to get into Profile Manager, because this is a non-SIS specific setting. We will only look at this from the perspective of the SLDS Profile Manager. We will not look at SIS at all. During this presentation, I will ask you to try a few exercises. This will allow you to use hands-on experience. I do realize it may be difficult for you to watch my screen and try to imitate what I am doing, so I will pause periodically so that you can try the exercises. Also, let me say, if you have a unique situation, it is better to address that after the recording stops. So please jot down your question, and we can talk about it in the webinar. Later in this presentation, you will be asked to complete an electronic sign-in. This even relates to those of you watching the recorded version. This will be your ticket out the door. We will use that contact information to send you a certificate of attendance, and you can share that certificate with your administration or anyone else that you may need to prove that you attended this webinar. At this time, I'm going to switch my screen over to the to my actual real Profile Manager. I am actually using the state schools Profile Manager. I'm one of the data persons that help manage access to SLDS for the state schools. That's the Georgia Academy of the Blind and the Atlanta Area School for the Deaf and so forth. So I am using their setup. And in today's session, we're going to be creating a specific role. But before we get there, I'd like to just talk to you in general terms about the Profile Manager. When this screen comes up, it by default comes to role, and then the first actual role that you have alphabetically in your setup. As you can see here, Central Office is the first role that by default shows up for us, but that's because it's the first alphabetical role. These are the particular SLDS roles that the state schools have. Doesn't mean that you need to have these same ones. You probably have some similar ones. For example, you probably already have STU, and you probably already have parent because those are hard-coded and they're managed by us. This is what actually provides the SLDS parent portal and the SLDS student portal, which also acts as the same thing as the parent portal. But those are totally managed by us, and you cannot make any changes to those two roles. But in this setup, you also have the ability to be able to search by applications. Before I click on this, these are your applications. These little blue cubes are applications. So you have the SLDS application, the growth model application, the IEP, TRL. But I can search for application. So when I do application, it's now going to list all my roles here, and it will identify which of these roles has SLDS. So every single one of these roles does have SLDS. In fact, that is a required application. Every role must have an SLDS application attached to it. But to say if I wanted to look and see who had the high school feedback application, for example, if I select high school feedback, For the state schools, you will see that there are only 2 roles that they have set up. Of course, they set these up. These are not something that comes out of the can for you guys. You would have to set this up. These are things you might want to set up after the webinar and so forth. But the only two roles that have the high school feedback application are these 2. Or if I wanted to check and see which ones already have the gifted application, if I select that, I can see that there's only 1 role that has the gifted application, and that is this session, this role here. And I actually created this role earlier in one of the other webinars, teacher_gifted. So I can search by role or by application. If I do application, then the applications will be listed here, and I can search roles as to which applications are assigned to that, or I can do by role, which will give me all of the applications here listed for a particular role. So that is how that works. In addition, you have these applications listed here. These are the cubes, but as you see, most of them also have a plus sign. If you open up the plus sign, it will drill down to the container. I strongly suggest that anytime there is a plus sign that you click on that to make sure that the options that you are wanting do actually take effect. So, for example, here in SLDS, you would need to decide which level they would have, district level, school level, or teacher level, and that's within inside of the specific SLDS application. Just to show you, if I click on TRL, there's also levels, but these are specific for the TRL application. For example, I could have school level here for TRL, but also have teacher level for SLDS. You can interchange them if that's the level of the application you wish to give them. And while I have this expanded here, let me just go ahead and expand this first plus sign here. You will now go down to the component level, and you can see all the various items that are inside of the district level SLDS. Here's where you can really custom make or tailor make your particular SLDS or that user role's SLDS experience. For example, if I wanted to, I could create a role that would not have GoFar, that would not have GKids data, that would not have 3rd grade writing or 5th grade writing or 6th grade or 8th grade writing. I could create it however I see fit, simply by unselecting the particular components that I do not wish to have access for that role. But I will not make any of these changes now, but just understand you can do that. So let me click back to plus signs, and let me at this time, I'm going to take a quick pause here so that you can just familiarize yourself with the search by type or search by role, and then clicking on the plus sign, clicking and coming back, seeing how that works for you. I'll mute my microphone and give you a few minutes to play. Okay, I hope that was fun for you. Now what we will do is we will actually create a new role. Since in the earlier session for one of the other webinars, I created the teacher_GNets, I think this time I would kind of continue on that theme and create a district level gifted role. So to create a new role, I click on the new role, and I am going to, in this case, I will do district, and I like to make it very complicated just so that it is unique, so that it helps you to remember. I'm going to say district gifted, and in the description I am going to spell that out a little bit. I am going to say something like district level SLDS with the gifted application. Okay? So that 6 months down the road, somebody can look at that and say, oh, that's what that's for. Or someone that may come in to figure out while you're on vacation or something to that effect. But once I name that, I'll have a little green box that shows up, says new role, gifted, district gifted has been added successfully. You might be wondering, well, where is that at? Well, if I search under the roles drop down, you'll see district gifted. So if I select that, my screen will change and it will show me all of the applications that are available and anything that I have checked for district gifted. Of course, I have not selected anything for district gifted yet, but you will notice that by default, it comes with SLDS selected there. And that's because every role must have an SLDS. None of the others, a role does not have to have any of the others, but it must have an SLDS. Now, let me just show something to you. I'm going to hit the save button again, and as you can see, I get an error. You might think, well, what in the world is this error for? Because I haven't done anything. What this error here is telling me, and this is how you read it, it says, please select a container for the application SLDS. SLDS, that's the application, and it's saying container. Well, now, where's the container? The folder-like option is a container. That's inside the plus sign. So if I expand that, you'll notice that even though SLDS was checked by default, it did not tell us whether it was district level, school level, or teacher level. You must, when you first set up a role, you must tell SLDS Profile Manager what level SLDS that has. Now, in this particular case, we are creating, this is the scenario, that we are creating this user role that someone at the district level would be able to have access to all of their district level stuff. In addition, they would have access to approve and or submit gifted data. But this would be a district level SLDS, so I need to select district, and just to follow through best practices, I'm going to click on the plus sign, and I do see all of these options are check marked. Of course, if I didn't want to give them all of these, I could simply unselect any of the components that I did not wish for that role to have. But just to finalize out this exercise, I'm going to now hit save just so that you can see it says now save successfully. I'm going to pause just for a few seconds. I want you now to create a new role. If you have already created, if you already have in your SIS or in your Profile Manager the gifted district role or teacher role, feel free. You can use any example you wish. I am only using this district_gifted as an example. Please feel free to create any new role you wish with whatever role name you wish to have. I'm going to pause the mic and come back in just a few moments. Welcome back. I am here, and I hope everyone did get a chance to play with creating a new role. Hopefully you took an opportunity to save and get the save successfully. But now, before you run off and think, okay, everything's cool and great and dandy, I want to point out to you that even though this role has been created, if I assign this role to a user in my student information system, then that user will not be very happy, because all they will be able to see when they try to access SLDS is is the SLDS data, because none of these other applications have been selected. Now, generally, this is a best practice. The people that I am setting this role up for generally are district level folks. So they are used to seeing certain things. So what I want to do is I want to go back and see what they're normally, what central office, in this particular example, what the district office or central office is used to seeing. So I can go back and see that, okay, they have SLDS, they have growth model, they do not have IEP. In fact, you may not even have the IEP application listed here. You will not have IEP listed here until you have actually applied to special ed to get training on the Georgia Online IEP. That's what this application here is for. But this central office, this district level office, also has TRL. They do not have GTID. This is a way to where a user could be given access to the guide application, but they do have IIS, they have GoFar, they do not have high school feedback, they do not have gifted, they do have PD, and in this case they do have access to the LOR. That's the Learning Object Repository. That's that application where the district can enter in digital resources into the teacher resource link. But I just want to get a gander of all of the applications that district level folks generally have. So I want to set up my district gifted very similar. If you don't, what's going to happen is the first time they log in, they will be complaining to somebody something like, well, yesterday I could see so-and-so and so-and-so, but today I can't. So that's why I like to set up their role as it would under normal conditions. They had growth model. They had district level TRL. And we'll click the plus sign, and yes, everything's there. They had district level IIS, so they had all of those. Okay. They had district level GoFar. There's a big difference in district level and school level, so forth, in GoFar. They did not have high school. They did not have gifted. They had PD, and they had LOR. Just to throw out here, guys, generally LOR only needs to be turned on for those personnel that will be adding resources into the Learning Object Repository. It does not need to be turned on for everybody. Okay, and we'll click Save. I hope to get, yes, I got saved successfully. So now what I have done is turn this role into a duplicate of what their previous role was. So if I went into my SIS and I changed their SLDS role from district level to district gifted, they could access SLDS, but they would not see anything different than they had before. So, but the whole purpose of creating this new role was to give them gifted. So I want to give them district level gifted. I'm going to hit save. I have saved successfully. Now what I want to do, I'm going to pause the microphone. I am going to let you explore with your new role. Whatever your new role is, try to duplicate whatever level that was based on a regular role, on one of the regular default roles. I'll pause the mic and come back here in just a minute. If you have questions, send me a chat. Okay, time's up. I hope you had an opportunity to get all these corrected. If not, you could always, those of you that are watching the recording, you can pause, rewind, go back and look over the section again. But before I move on from here, I want to draw your attention to this gifted application. You'll notice there's district, school, and gifted teacher. Not sure that I know exactly what that means, because say for example up in TRL and all these others, I'm just seeing district school and teacher. Well, what's the difference between gifted teacher and teacher? Generally in SLDS, and the way it works on all these other applications currently, a teacher only gets to see information that pertains to students that are on their roster. With the advent of the gifted application, and we assume will also be with the EL, the English Learner application that we are currently designing, the gifted teacher needs to have access to all students, not just students that are on their roster. For example, the gifted application allows a user to go in and put in COGATs and Aguilera Renzuli's, put in all of these test scores for students, whether they're gifted or not gifted, whether they qualify for gifted services or not qualify for gifted services. So they would need to have access to students that are not already identified as gifted, which normally would also mean that they're not on that gifted teacher's roster. Now, by doing this, they only get to see, they don't see everything about the student. They only see the student's name, the GTID number, and the grade level. And that's just for identifying purposes so that they can make sure they identify the correct student so that when they go in and put these test scores, it would be assigned to the correct teacher. But that's the difference here between a gifted teacher container and a teacher container. Also, while I have this pulled out here, let me just mention again, gifted teacher can only submit test information on students. Once they've put in all of the test scores for the gifted eligibility, they submit that report for a final approval. We built the gifted model so that it would accommodate any level of school system, whether it be a small system or very large system. If you assign a district level role or a school level role in the gifted application, those two roles are approval level. So if by having this as district level, this user would be able to approve any of the data that comes in. Now, we made it available to where district, school, and gifted teacher can all submit. All three role levels can submit. Only school and district can approve. So, in a scenario such as you may have a gifted teacher over the high school, that is the final say-so as to whether this child is or is not gifted, eligible for gifted. You could, even though that's a teacher, you could give them teacher level in all these other applications, but in the gifted application, you could give them school level. That would allow that person, that user, to submit and approve any of those results for that one particular school. So the way we set this up is you can use a little logic to figure out the best formula for however your school or your district does provide the gifted services. So, but that is simply by selecting whichever they wish to have here. So I'm going to pause the screen one more time so that you can play a little bit more and just see where you might want to be at. Okay, welcome back. I do not have access to your particular SIS, so you will have to find the correct procedure in setting up and creating new roles in your student information system. However, I do want to use the state schools, I want to continue with it, to show you a couple of errors that may come up, and this can be used for troubleshooting. I'm going to come in from Infinite Campus in this particular case, and I'm going to access SLDS. I think I have it set to where it should error out intentionally. This is a typical error. This is a typical error. And where this comes into play is that my role name is not exactly the same as the value that I am putting in my SIS that is passed through the tunnel. When I click on the SLDS button inside of my SIS, it passes over data through a tunnel, through this encrypted connection, this SAML packet. It passes over a role. That role name that is coming across through the tunnel does not match exactly the role name that I just created inside of my SLDS. It is case sensitive. It's space sensitive. If I had not created, in my example, I did district underscore gifted. If I create inside of my SIS, if I created it with a space, district space gifted, it would throw this error because those two items are not exactly the same. You get to choose on whichever side you wish to change to match the other. If it's easier for you to change it in Profile Manager, then feel free to go in as Profile Manager and change the role name in Profile Manager to being exactly what you have in your SIS. If it's easier to change it in your SIS, then whichever case that might be. When it is set up correctly, the district level with gifted application, when your user, and let me encourage you, always test this on yourself before you assign it to new users. But when the user now clicks on from the SIS to open up into SLDS, they should come into district level. They're in the way I set it up for district level, and you see they have gifted eligibility. In addition, they have all the other applications across the top that I selected the application for the check boxes. Okay, I hope that was good for you. And at this time, we've completed the presentation. And even those that are watching this, I need to get you to do one more thing. Let me switch screens here. And if everyone will, I'd like for you to open up a browser, another browser, and type in this short Google URL. Type in, you do not need HTTP or anything, just type in the URL line, goo.gl/C, the number 3, capital V, the number 1, lowercase w, uppercase W. It is case sensitive. If you have trouble using that URL or getting into the login for that, then shoot me or Jesse an email and we will send that to you. But by doing this, this will be your ticket out the door. When entering your information, please be extra careful entering your email address, because we will use that contact information on this sign-in to send you a certificate of attendance. As I said earlier, you can share that certificate with your administration in case you need proof of attending this webinar. If you are having a difficult time with the URL link, please email me. Near the bottom of the screen, you will see my email address and Jesse's email address. If you have questions in regards to this specific webinar, feel free to contact either of us. If you have more generic questions, please contact the SLDS email address. I want to thank you for participating with me. I hope you found this session beneficial. If you cannot attend a face-to-face training on other training topics, please participate in some of our other webinar training sessions. At this time, I would like to ask you if you can think of other topics that you would like for us to provide a webinar on, please send that suggestion to myself or to Jesse, and we will try to accommodate that in the near future. Again, we thank you. Have a great day.